Today on Homestead Wisdom, we're going to be talking about dry food storage for your livestock. As you can see, we actually have a small flock of chickens. Our flock's actually grown recently, so we've started storing all of our food inside this shed here. This shed does have asphalt shingles. It's built with pretty traditional construction, and I'd like to take you inside and show you how we use it. So first things first, one of the things to keep in mind when selecting a location to store your food is you need to find a place that's centrally located to where you're actually going to be dispensing it for your animals. As you can see, this is fairly close. It also has an area around it that permits me to actually drive a vehicle up in here for actually resupplying. The main doorway here, it does have a storm door on it with a catch at the top where we can actually keep it open, so when we're resupplying, that will hold the door open. There's plenty of space in here for us to maneuver around. And here is actually where we keep most of our dry food stored at. This is actually a 50-gallon drum. It's actually made out of steel. It's been painted, and it does have just a little bit of rust on it. This drum we actually picked up at a flea market recently. We only paid about $7 for it. We also got another barrel here beside it. I'm not sure whether I want to recommend this particular barrel yet or not. This one is actually made out of cardboard, and the reason why I'm a little skeptical about cardboard is because part of the reason why we like the steel is that rodents actually cannot chew through it. Cardboard, I'm not sure if they'd be able to get through that or not, but I don't know whether to make that recommendation yet or not. Maybe I'll post a video here in a few months and can update you on that. So this here is actually how we used to keep all of our feed, and that's in feed sacks. We actually decided to expand our flock this year, and so we've picked up several additional chickens, which do require quite a bit of feed. So we've transitioned from purchasing bagged feed to actually buying the ingredients that make up that bagged feed individually. Of course, one of the primary components of chicken food is actually corn. So this corn was purchased through a local farm. We've got a really good deal on it. I believe we're paying around $5, maybe $5.50 for a 60-pound bag. So the corn has been dried. Of course, it's been removed from the husks and all have been removed, so it makes it nice. Like I say, we're buying 60-pound bags. We just bring them in here. We put them in this steel drum for safekeeping, and then we also have a cover that we can put over this to keep the rodents out. We don't want any rodents coming down the shelf there and jumping into our feed. That could make for a mess. All right, so a couple other things to keep in mind. Of course, this is a shed. This is the same shed we use for a lot of our gardening tools and things like that. But we actually chose to put the food in here because it's a pretty stable environment. It's kept fairly dry. Now, the temperature can vary, but the moisture level in here tends to stay fairly low. We do, however, have windows. If we need to open the windows, we can do that to let in some ventilation. This is particularly important in the early summer and late spring time frame. We get a lot of moisture here in western Kentucky, so the humidity is very, very high. And so that allows us to have a little better control if we need to open that up for some ventilation to cool the place down. It's a very open design, open rafters here, as you can see. And those asphalt shingles do heat up, so ventilation is very important. Now, if you plan on storing your feed in a shed like this, try and keep it as clean as possible. If you drop a lot of corn or oats or anything like that on the floor, it can really make for a mess. And if you leave them out, it will attract mice. It can even attract squirrels, and you don't want to have those trying to get in. So, needless to say, the area in your shed here should be fairly weatherproof and rodent proof. Just a little side topic. It is November here in western Kentucky, and that's actually when ladybugs hatch. As you can see, we've got a bumper crop of ladybugs here. Ladybugs are a very useful bug. We can post more information on that later, but we have plenty of those, so hopefully we'll have a healthy garden next year. So back to the food here. A lot of people wonder, should I go ahead and mix my food, pre-mix it, or should I actually mix it at the time that I'm going to be feeding it to the animals? Well, what we actually do is we keep this around. This is actually an old tea pitcher, juice pitcher. We mix up our feed just before we feed it to the animals. So we'll come out here in the morning and mix all of the ingredients together and then give it to the chickens. Now, the reason why I make that recommendation is different components of the feed can actually have different requirements as far as moisture goes. For example, corn you should keep stored very dry. If you start mixing that in with other things, you may throw that moisture balance off enough where you can start having some quality issues. Things like mold and things like that could be introduced. So we just use this tea pitcher. We fill it up with a mixture of corn. We also give them other things like oats. And we also give them oyster shells, which we buy these in a bag. We mix in a little bit of oyster shell. That just helps to provide the chickens with a little extra calcium, which makes their shells a little more durable. If you have problems with weak shells, consider getting some of the oyster shell, which has been crushed up, and just mix it in with their regular feed. You'll notice your chickens will actually eat it. It may even turn their poop a little white, and that's good actually, because if you're harvesting that poop for your garden, that means there's a little extra calcium that will be mixed in there. Alright, one thing I wanted to point out real quickly here, the corn, when we get the corn, we actually do get it in bags. So these bags here are actually made out of a material that's similar to a tarp. One recommendation is, once you've emptied your bags, keep these bags around. You can actually return these to the farm that supplied you with the corn, and that can help them save a little bit of money in the process there, and maybe keep your food prices down. Or, you know, if you want them to just simply refill those next time you go and try and purchase your corn. Now, I'm talking a lot about corn, but that's not the only component of the food that we give to the chickens, but it is the one that requires the most attention because, like I said, the complications of moisture.